Yo, what's going on, everybody? Let's get this thing live on Facebook. Welcome to another episode of the Cash Physical Therapy Headquarters podcast, everyone. Just the weekly delay waiting for Facebook to stop acting hungover. It's a little slow, buffering. And we are live. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Cash Physical Therapy Headquarters podcast. Today, we're covering why most healthcare CEOs stay broke and just a few do not. So, everyone wants the title of CEO, but most healthcare business owners stay stuck in the operator trap, wondering why their bank account doesn't match their effort. So, inside of this episode, Ben and I are going to unpack why the majority of healthcare CEOs stay broke, burnt out, and just buried in day-to-day busy work, while a select few like Ben and myself and a lot of the clinical marketer clients break through to create real freedom for themselves to scale and wealth, where they're able to take multiple guilt-free vacations on an annual basis. So today we're going to dive into three different things. One, the operator trap, why doing more in your business keeps you broke even when revenue is growing. The shift that changes everything for CEOs, how real business operators, real CEOs think, prioritize, and build teams that grow without them. And lastly, the freedom framework that we follow, that the systems, the mindset, the accountability that is required to scale profits and purpose inside of your business. So today's going to be a really good one, man. It's something that I'm really passionate about. It's something that I've learned a ton about over the last couple years running Clinical Marketer. Ben, I know you've had more than your fair share of lessons learned. So how you feeling today, man? You ready?
Yeah, no, it's be a good one. It's just so common to see this occur, and so want to help try and help other people avoid falling into the trap.
Right. And so there's let's start with the operator trap. Now, this is the most common thing ever. And I want to share a story with all of you to kind of highlight what this actually looks like. So we just brought on a client in the last couple of months who is really, really smart, a true like visionary, the ideas kind of person in the business, and he's a world-class clinician. And so he got into the programs, and he is going through and learning all this stuff, has a bunch of ideas, is doing all this stuff, but he has shiny object syndrome. And whenever it comes to actually doing the work in his business, he always finds something to distract himself to go and work on instead. And what he's doing is he's doing what feels comfortable for him. He is most comfortable coming up with ideas and talking about all the things that he's going to do. But when it comes to actually taking the action required to actually get to where he's trying to go, he doesn't do it because he's resisting doing the things that make him uncomfortable. And we see this all the time with PTs when they start a practice because they never wanted to be an entrepreneur. That was never a part of the plan. But then when they realized how much more money they can make and how much more time freedom they can have by starting their own cash practice, they thought, what the hell, let's do it. But then they quickly find out that it is a trap, because although you are good enough to create a job for yourself and be a job owner where you're basically just a freelance physical therapist, in order to get to the next level, which is a business owner, and this the part after that is when you own a real asset, when you're building the people that build the team rather than building the business. People never make the jump to the next level because they avoid working on the things that they're uncomfortable with doing. Ben, does that bring up any raw emotions or stories for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's just always easier to think about all these great things to do, but then when it comes to the execution, that's not the sexy part, and so it's really the doing, not the thinking that
Right.
gets it done, and that's what people don't understand, because again, the thinking feels good, right?
Right. And
The
that's
doing
why the entrepreneurial graveyard is riddled with incredible clinicians. They're far more skilled than, you know, probably you, Ben,
yeah,
and many of the other practice owners that have scaled to multiple seven figures. Because they might not be like the best clinicians in the world, but they actually are comfortable being uncomfortable, and they realize where their weaknesses are really the things that they need to master in order to get where they're trying to go. Marcus Aurelius said, the obstacle is the way. What stands in the way becomes the way. And that is the philosophy that they live their lives by. Whatever they're bad at, they attack and they delegate the things that they're the best at. And most, it's hard to even call most business owners CEOs. They're not real CEOs yet, because what they do the opposite. They focus on what they're good at, and then they try to hand off all the stuff they're bad at to try to circumvent being uncomfortable and being bad at something.
Yeah, and also want to highlight too something they said earlier. I'm probably the worst PT that has a cash practice. I have collectively been out of school for 7 years. I collectively have 18 months of patient care experience. That's it. And we have one of, if not the largest cash-based practice. So it just goes to show, like, you don't need to be, the world's best PT. You have to be great at delegating and doing. And yeah, like you said, or sitting the uncomfortableness and doing what needs to get done, even though you're not good at it. That's what it takes. So
right. So more often than not, the thing that you're the best at becomes the bottleneck within the business. So the job as the CEO is not to be the star of the show. It's to hand off the things that you are the best at to get out of the way so that you can start working on the parts of the business that are struggling the most. That is the job. And so the operator trap is where you focus on all the things that you're the most comfortable with and all the things that you know you need to do to grow the business that are uncomfortable. Well, you put that at the bottom of your to-do list so that you do all the things that you're good with. And then whatever energy you have left for the day, you put into the stuff that makes you uncomfortable, which really typically looks like you're going to go watch some YouTube videos about it. You're going to watch some content about it and you're going to learn about it, but you're not going to actually do the uncomfortable work of actually doing the damn thing. Where you'd be way better off, instead of going and watching YouTube videos and reels about it, you just try to do it and fail at doing it over and over again until you actually are good at it. And then once you actually have something kind of resembling success within that thing you're bad at, that's when you go and watch the content and the YouTube videos to figure out, like, how can you make this thing even better? And most people do that completely backwards, so they never even actually get started. They never develop the actual skill that they need in order for it to work.
Yeah, it needs to be flip-flopped. It's the things that you're good at and you've already mastered. That's the stuff that you hand off.
Right.
Then the stuff that's not built out in the business, that's what you need to be working on. Figure
Right.
out a system, processes, how to do that. Then you delegate that. But don't delegate stuff that you don't have figured out and aren't good at yourself. Because
Right.
the standard's not set. 2, you don't know what good is. And 3, you can't hold anybody accountable because it's never been proven to be done. And they're just whoever you hand it off to, like, well, you've never been able to do it. I'm not going to, like, for example, if you hand off the phone call to somebody and you're upset that they're not getting an 80% conversion rate when you only able to do 60, they're going to throw that in your face. Well, all right, it's so easy, you do it. Right. But you can't.
Exactly.
When I handed off the phone script, I had overdone over 1,000 phone calls. Right. I built up that authority, had clear cut data on what we should be converting at. There's no way for them to argue or not be able to state that this is possible, right? You have that conviction versus if you try and hand something off before you mastered it, you don't.
Right. And before you removed yourself from team leadership, you led the team. You built the processes. You built the team meeting cadence. You learned how to run those meetings. You learned how to retain and gain the respect of your team. And so once you master that and you build the processes, well, then you hire someone to come in and manage the system that you built. You don't hire someone to come in and build the system because you'll never find someone who is as invested as you are to do it right. And that's how you move really, really quickly. And so your job as the business owner is to literally hand off the things that you're the best at so that you can inject yourself into the parts of the business that are the weakest so that you can develop those skills, build the system, and then hand it off to someone who can then manage that system. And because a lot of you aren't doing that, when you try to hire, you're not attracting anyone because you're not a leader. You're not a real leader. You don't have proven systems to plug people into. And so you don't look like you are someone worth betting on. And you're not, because the odds of you being successful are very, very slim because people can see how you approach problems. You just pass them off to someone else, and there's someone else's problems to figure out, which isn't what a leader does. And so you're not attracting the kind of talent that you want, or even have the ability to retain that talent, because what do you have to teach and to give to the people you're hiring to help them become better at what they do?
You don't.
So it's like this huge double-edged sword of you're screwing yourself by being comfortable. And real leaders are the people who people can look to because they know that you're the person who can conquer challenges that they themselves are afraid to conquer within them.
Yep.
And so if you can be the person who can stay cool under pressure, who knows with evidence and proof that you can conquer big problems, that's the type of people that people want to work for and learn from, because that's who they want to be themselves. And so get out of the operator trap. So many people, they say they don't have time to learn marketing. They don't have time to learn sales. They don't have time to learn how to like manage the metrics. They want to hire someone to do all that stuff. But yeah, you don't have time because you're not prioritizing learning the skills that's going to make you a great CEO. You're spending all your time treating. So when you're first getting started, Ben, what's the advice to make sure that you have time to cultivate these skills and build these systems while also making sure the business is making money?
Well, at the end of the day, you just got to put the hours in. Like I think some people start the business like a business for the wrong reasons, so they don't have to work. You're not going to be able to start a business on 40 hours, so you're gonna have to grind a little bit. Like that's honestly my advice. You have to grind. You have to put 60, 80 hours. That's how you make the time. I hear people say they don't have the time, and they're doing 40 or 50 hours. If that's all you have to give, I would recommend not getting into business. That's what it's going to take the first year. You need to
Right.
put the hours in, is what it comes down to. So it's not. There are some other sexy, time blocking strategies, but at the end of the day, you got to put the time in.
Yeah. I don't usually talk about like other like coaching programs inside of the physical therapy space, but Paul Goff said it really, really well in his recent piece of content that he posted, where it's like, if you really want to have the lifestyle that you dream of, where you have work-life balance, you have financial freedom, and you're able to create like a big impact, that does mean that for a couple years, probably years, some people it's months, depending on your tenacity and how committed you are to like failing fast. That does mean that when you go to your kid's soccer game, you aren't going to be present. You're going to miss the goals. You might miss the game entirely because you're thinking about building this machine. And that does mean you are going to have to sacrifice things that most people aren't willing to sacrifice. And I know you started your business to be able to do those things, but there is an order of operations that is required to create the space and the freedom that you want to have. And it's not starting a practice means you're able to do that. If you want to sustain that long term, that means you have to sacrifice in the beginning in order to make that actually happen. Because real freedom doesn't come from having a business. It really comes from who you become through the process of building that business that creates the time and financial freedom.
Right. It's just got to be sacrifices. Sacrificed my entire 20s. Didn't date. Right. Didn't go out. Lost relationships because I wasn't putting time towards those. Some say that wasn't worth it. Wouldn't be worth it to them. But that's the thing is also, what I want my 30s and 40s to look like. It was worth it, right, for me. But you got to make that decision. So
right, you have to understand. It's like, the traditional saying is like, your 20s and 30s are the best years of your life. Don't waste them. Mm-hmm. Bullshit. And that is such a defeated, pathetic mindset, in my opinion. Like, I am beyond excited for my 30s, my 40s, my 50s because of the work that I put into my 20s. Because like, what's glorious about drinking every weekend and partying when those aren't even the things you remember? You don't even remember those a week. All of those start to blur together. And so it's like you have to sacrifice early on so that you can create the real life that you want to have that can sustain over decades of your life. And so you have to be willing to make that sacrifice. You have to be willing to focus on the things that you suck at, even though it's uncomfortable, because that's what builds the belief in the character that is going to create the life that you want to have. Where it's like, even if your business completely fails, you've cultivated the skill set that allows you to start over again and again and again and get better and better as you do it. That's where you become, my favorite phrase is just like unfuckwithable. Okay. By failing and getting really good at the things you suck at, because it doesn't matter what happens in your life, you have these skill sets that 99% of the world do not have that everyone else needs. And so get out of the operator trap. leverage your time effectively, where you block off time to work on these systems, not learn about these systems. We know you're professional learners and you're comfortable with learning. You're uncomfortable with execution. Execute, then learn, then optimize until you're great at that skill, then work on the next thing.
No, that's simple.
Right. It is that simple. It's not easy, but it is extremely simple. Just do the thing that you're on. Like, I think it was Hermosi that said, like, the key to the success you don't have is in the work that you're avoiding doing.
Yep.
Very, very true. So fail fast, learn fast. If you learn faster than everyone else, you're going to win. The next piece is the shift that changes absolutely everything. Okay. So most of us, when we first get started, we make emotional decisions. We follow our gut and our intuition. And when we're first getting started, that's really, really powerful. But the reality is, to build something that's self-sustaining and that can consistently grow month over month, we can't make emotional decisions. We can't trust our intuition because we've never built a $50,000 a month or a 7-figure business before. What does our intuition know about it? And so we have to eliminate emotional thinking and decision making, and we have to track our numbers. Just like when you're treating patients, you're not following your gut, you're collecting data points and making adjustments as you go. The scientific method. That's what is required. So we have to track our numbers. Then how can people get started tracking your numbers, and how do you leverage those numbers to make your decisions on a monthly basis?
Yeah, so you don't need to be tracking like 50 different things to start. Just start with like 3. Just get in the habit of tracking. That's going to be the first thing. Like, it's foreign to most people to track data and be able to make decisions off of those, right? So just start with 3. The 3 that I would start with is phone call conversion, initial evaluation conversion rate, and then how long are people sticking around, your average visits per plan of care. So how many people on the phone are ending up coming in for an eval? Of those people that come in for an eval, how many are converting? Third, once you convert them, how long are they sticking around? That's going to give you a large amount of data to determine where is your bottleneck. Because a lot of people think that they just need more new patients, and it's because they're not tracking data. They would know that they don't need new patients. If they were tracking that third one of how long is people sticking around, they would be able to see, oh, they're only coming in for 3 visits. Yeah, no shit, I need more new patients. They're only sticking around for 3 visits. Ours is 9. Our average visit per plan of care is 9 in ProKinetics. If somebody is only coming in for 3 visits at another clinic and they're seeing 9 visits at ours, that other clinic needs to find 3 times the amount of new patients than we do, right? So that's how you make data-backed decisions. Like, I could work on, like, yeah, I'm going to just spend more on marketing. That's not the problem, and that's the reason people make that wrong decision, because they're not tracking data.
Right. Another one that one of my coaches just highlighted for us, because I thought, we're doing really good. Our close rate's above industry average. We had all the leads and book calls that we could need. I thought we just need to scale to add more book calls to hit the revenue target that we had in mind. He said, you can do it that way, but an easier way to do it is just increase your average order value, increase your average cash collected on the first purchase. So another way you could look at it is, okay, what's the average amount that people are paying you at the first session, or on like the package? And maybe an easier way to hit your revenue milestone is, instead of breaking out a payment plan into how many visits they're going to have, why don't you break it into 2 full payments, so that your initial average investment is, instead of $200, or you make it either a full pay at $1,500 or half of that at $750. Now, with the same lead volume you have, you've almost doubled your monthly revenue without having to get more leads. And so there's a lot of different ways that you can look at it when you actually have the data to make these decisions. More marketing is the answer only when you have a fine-tuned machine worth growing. It's supposed to pour gas on the fire, not start the fire.
Right. That's a good way to put it.
Right. Okay, let's move into the last one here. So the freedom framework, the systems, mindsets, and accountability required to scale with profit and purpose. What's the first thing that comes to mind for you, Ben?
Profit. Like, you got to be structuring your business for profit, and most people don't know how to do that. And a lot of it starts with setting rates properly. Right. If you're charging 120, 130 bucks, hard to really have that profit, and it's hard to have that freedom. The other part is when it comes to the freedom part, not knowing how to delegate, knowing what to delegate, how to delegate, when to delegate is the two things there.
Right. Making every decision based off of profit. You want a 30% profit margin. Ben's doing what, 230, 250 a month in your practice with a 30% profit margin?
Yep.
That's about $700,000 a year in profit, everybody. That's what's allowing Ben to invest into real estate and to grow the foundation that he wants to have so that he doesn't have to work ever again by the time he's 40 years old. Okay. That's the framework that you need to follow. That's what we do in Clinical Marketer. It's what our clients do in their businesses. And what a lot of people do is they don't pay attention to profit. Suddenly they have a 5% profit margin. And then their goal is to get to 15%, which is sad because you're doing all of this work. You're growing your business and your life is getting harder, but you're not making more money for it, which is a sad place to be.
Yeah, 15% profit margin. You'd have to have $1 million practice to take home $150,000. You could do that in home health.
Right.
Scaling $1 million practice to have $150,000, and
you could take on a high ticket sales position, take 6 calls a day, and make more than that, and not have to deal with all the crap that you're dealing with as a business owner. Yep. It's all about profit, and your profit should dictate every decision, how much you're spending on marketing and how much you have available for payroll. One of the most common problems a lot of people have is when they feel like they can hire someone because they hit $10,000 a month, and they think in order to scale, I just need to hire somebody. And so they bring someone in and then offer them the payment that they would want if they're in their shoes, not realizing that they are not you. You started your own business. You have a very different perspective on life and what it is that you want than most people. And most people vastly overpay their PTs, not realizing that's not why they want to work for your practice. That's one reason, but there's many other reasons as well. And a lot of them overpay, and now they're working twice as hard to fill their schedule, and they're not making any profit at the end of the year. How much you're willing and able to pay needs to be a calculation made based off of your current income and the profit margin you want to maintain. And so we have a hiring calculator. If you want it, drop calculator in the comments. We can send that over to you. But we've saved a lot of businesses, probably from shutting down, just by helping them calculate exactly how much they should be paying based off of their profit targets and their current revenue, that they still got the hire, but now they're saving, $10,000 to $15,000 a year that they can now invest back into marketing to grow their leads to then make their next hire.
Yeah, it's scary on how much. Yeah, you bring up a really good point. That's probably the most detrimental thing. One of the most detrimental things that you can do as a business owner when you're scaling is the overpayment. Yeah. And the thing is too, like, they're still super happy. Like, they're just happy as if they, like Jordan said, they're not there for they're there for the money, but that's not the main sole reason, that they're there. They're there for other reasons. They're not you.
Yep. We should cover that next week. Like, how do we attract A players? How do we attract and retain the best talent? I have to run to my next call here, but I want to leave you all with this. The core job of the CEO is to maintain a business that has a healthy profit margin so that you can reinvest back into your team, so you can build a successful business to create more opportunities for that team who are taking care of your patients. That is the job. Now, a lot of people, they kill their profit margins because they try to delegate the problem solving within their business, whether that's marketing, sales, leadership, operations, whatever it is. They, instead of learning how to do it, they hire someone else who can do it, because that's a lot of the advice out there by coaches to don't do it yourself. Delegate, delegate, delegate. That's stupid. And it's going to keep you in a trap. It's going to kill your profit. What Ben and I have learned, especially over the last year, is you can't do that, because that's what we did. What you do need to do as a CEO, the professional problem solver within your business, is to use your data to identify the biggest constraint in the business and inject yourself into that portion of the business, and do not leave until you've built a new SOP and a system that works. And then once it is working and you fully understand it and you fully document it, that's when you then hire someone to then manage that SOP that you built with the new expectations that you set, and then go work on the next biggest constraint in the business. Your job is to always inject yourself into the biggest problem in the business, solve it, and then delegate the management of that system that you just built. That's how you maintain profits and scale fast.
100%.
Cool. Anything else to add, Ben?
Nope. Nailed it.
Hell yeah. Well, awesome, everybody. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. If you got value out of this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Share it with a friend you think needs to hear this. And we'll see you next time on the Cash Physical Therapy Headquarters podcast. Peace.